part, you're about as Christian as you can get in these things. In fact, Christians are not Christian. Tolstoy went around Russia trying to find out who said, I forget what the point was, but I think, who said who said that you were allowed to fight wars in Christianity? And he asked all these religious people and so on, because he was a pacifist. He went around and asked all these religious people, priests, others. And the answer was, that was determined long ago. But the more he dug back, he never found where it was determined that you were allowed to fight wars. And then, of course, he broke with the church, and he was excommunicated by the Greek Orthodox Church or the Russian Orthodox Church for this reason and so on. His final decision was that it had never been determined, and in fact, you were not allowed to do these things according to the scripture that he took seriously. That's what happens. Everyone says, these things were determined a long time ago. But when you dig into them, you find out that they weren't determined. So, okay, there is this thing about paying taxes or not paying taxes. It's a burning issue. Jesus is supposed to have resolved it in the scripture. I'm not sure he did. Paul certainly does for Christians for all time, if you pay attention to Paul. But the groups we're looking at in Palestine are anti-Pauline groups anyway. Now, as far as Judas the Galilean goes, his teaching and those with him was you do not pay taxes to Rome. So that's a burning issue of this period. Now, let me throw out one other point, just to make this whole picture clear. The Gospels, what side are they on? Jesus is a personality that they picture. That's supposed to be historical. They picture Jesus eating with who? Publicans, we sometimes call them. They're tax collectors. So he prefers the company of tax collectors often to his own people. So that message comes through loud and clear. Jesus approves of tax collectors. So, I didn't get that message. Well, that's because you didn't read the scripture carefully. That's what the scripture is saying. Jesus approves of tax collectors. They're not unclean, dirty, bad people. They're as good as anyone else, and you have to pay them their acknowledgement, and Jesus keeps company with them. We see, I'll get you a minute. That is not the Jesus of the revolutionary movements. That is the Jesus of a pro-Pauline constituency that feels that tax collecting and so on and so forth is acceptable and part of your obligations. Now, the Dead Sea Scrolls make it very clear that the tax collectors are not acceptable. So we get a competition here, 180-degree different literature opposing one to the other. I'm not saying one is right, one is wrong, or you're right, or someone else is wrong. You just have to decide what side of the issue you personally are on, and what you think was really going on in Palestine at that time, and what the Messiah at that time really represented, and whether these were the things that would have been a part of the Messianic movement. Yeah.
The group Judas the Galilean was
Right.
preaching no tax.
Right, absolutely.
Was he involved in any of, did he take any money, or was he just?
I have no idea. We just have Josephus, but he fought. It was an uprising, and
So
they fought against the Roman imposition of the census. Now, the interesting thing is that the Gospels take this moment in both versions of Jesus' birth. They take the two revolutionary moments in Josephus as the time Jesus was born. Are you familiar with the Gospels? To the extent that, which Gospels, first of all, deal with the issue of Jesus' birth? Luke and Matthew. There you go. Two Gospels deal with Jesus' birth. Does John deal with Jesus' birth? No. John has a prelude, a mystical Alexandrian Neoplatonic type prelude that have to do with light and dark mysticism and the Word becoming flesh, and it's very poetic and a very beautiful prelude, but it's nothing to do with anything historical. It's a spiritual mysticism that is embodied in a Christ figure. And the first historical event is Jesus appearing among the followers of John the Baptist. Mark takes the same approach. Mark doesn't deal with any issues of Jesus' early life or birth. He only appears out of, no one knows where or what among the followers of John the Baptist. But, so we can say that I think that would be, if we were going to look for the story of Jesus, that would be a good place that everyone agrees that we should start. That there's something in this movement of John the Baptist that gives rise to a personality that we now call Jesus. On the other side of it, Matthew and Luke do wrestle with this issue, don't they? But do they agree with each other on any point? No. Now, you see, most of our understanding of this is psychologically we conflate both narratives. So in our view, we have a fleshed out picture of Jesus from aspects of both narratives. But we don't look at them as separate narratives in our mind because we don't go back that much to the written word. But if you go back to the written word, put them side by side, as scholars do in these what they call synopsises, or these different ways of presenting the gospel material side by side of the same stuff, you'll see that Matthew and Luke agree on nothing. They don't agree in their genealogies. The genealogies don't agree. And there's lots of theological explanations for that, but I don't want to get into all that. We're going to deal with that in a minute. Eusebius is aware the genealogies doesn't agree, and he's going to deal with that in almost the first chapters of his book here, or try to deal with it anyway. The genealogies don't agree, but first of all, the dates don't agree. Because in one narrative, Herod is still alive. That has to be before 4 BC. Because what's he's trying to do? Kill all the Jewish children. In the fashion of Pharaoh and Moses. So that, I think, is already a mythological presentation. Nobody would be idiot enough to try to kill all the children with that, because knowing the Middle East and any other place for that matter, but particularly the Middle East, you start killing people's children, they're going to get really violent. And no ruler in his right mind would embark on that project because of some oracle that he supposedly heard. Now, that's not realistic, but it does hark back to the Moses story that Pharaoh was worried about the Jewish slaves getting too powerful, and therefore he put an order out to kill all the newborn children and so on and so forth, and that's how Moses was saved. So the Jesus story in Matthew is harking back to that. Now, so what, it happened that way too? Okay, well, it may have. That's for you to decide. So that's before 4 BC, but Luke is clearly knows as Josephus, because the census is mentioned in Josephus, and he's read Josephus, and he knows that there was a census to take the taxation, and that is in 7 AD. Now, you, the average John Q. public or a believer, doesn't know that. You say, well, how come I didn't hear that before? Well, you didn't do a history.